Hello everybody, Sparkster1701 here. Once again, we're continuing our look into some oddball Transformers that have been gifted to me. This is one I've had for quite a while now, but for whatever reasons I never got around to reviewing it. So, now we're going to make time for it. We're taking a look at the Combiner Force unit of Dragstrip and Wildbreak. And we'll also, later on in the video, look at their combined form of Dragbreak. This toy was sent to me years ago by a longtime subscriber to the channel, and she's been a longtime subscriber and supporter to the channel, as she's gifted several Transformers, or loaned some occasionally, to the channel for review. So, I apologize for the long wait. And before anybody asks, yes, I also have the Stunticon gift set that features these characters from the same series. We will eventually get around to reviewing it, just not during this month. I'm not exactly sure when I'm going to, but we will get to it. At any rate, these guys are from the Robots in Disguise series, which while that was out in 2015, these guys were released in 2017. And they are, of course, Stunticons, and they were featured in the Generation 1 era as well. So we'll take a look at them individually and compare them to their originals. First up, we'll take a look at Dragstrip. Now, of course, for this version of the character, they have it as one word, whereas in the Generation 1 era, it was done up as two words. And for some news, for those of you fans who may not be keeping up with the upcoming toys, the Legends series that's coming out next year is going to feature Stunticons, as Dragstrip has been confirmed to be a part of the first wave. Now, while none of the others have been shown yet, it's pretty likely that if they're going to show off if they're going to have one piece of a combiner, odds are pretty likely that the entire combiner will be available. So, let's keep our eyes open and our fingers crossed for a new version of Menasor. We haven't had a new version of Menasor since the Combiner Wars era, so it's probably about high time we get a new Menasor. And yes, I do have the Combiner Wars Menasor as well. Again, I need a fair amount of time to review it, and I'm not sure when I will have that. But we will eventually try to figure some way out to be able to review some of those very special toys. But at any rate, in the Generation 1 continuity, Dragstrip was a warrior among the Stunticons. But his biggest liability was the fact that he always wanted to win. First place was the only thing that mattered to Dragstrip. If he couldn't be the best, he did whatever he could to sabotage the competition so that he would come out as the best. So while that sort of makes him one of the more saner characters among the Stunticons, it still left him vulnerable to being bullied by his leader, Motormaster, as Motormaster was near invincible. So, how can you top that? But at any rate, some of that was carried over for the newer character, as he still has the competitive streak. But as you can see, they did it as a slight homage to the original, as he's done up in a similar type of color. Not an exact match, which we can't always hope for, but he's also not trying to look like a real race car, unlike the original. So let's take a look at his articulation, and unfortunately, given the way this toy is, the articulation is only in the arms. We can stretch his arms out all the way out to there, and that is it. So, unfortunately, that kind of sucks, but given the fact that the toy has a rather cute little gimmick, it's slightly forgiving, but I think we could have all hoped for more. To transform Dragstrip, it's a very simple process. First thing we got to do is we pop open his chest here. Then you're going to fold his head down, put it inside. Then you close the chest back up. And then we wiggle his arms into the sides and make sure they're secured in solid. And then there we have it. Dragstrip is done up as a orange-colored car with some purple highlights above the rear wheels. Whereas the Generation 1 car was a Tyrrell racing via six-wheeled racing car. So it made Dragstrip rather unique, as he was done off of a rather interesting and unique racing car. Of course, how does the new one roll on his little wee wheels here? Well, let's find out. Rolls okay. About what you would expect. Now let's take a look at his partner in crime. Okay, here we have Wildbreak. And the close equivalent to him from the Generation 1 era is Ryder. My guess is that Hasbro lost the trademark, and they had to change the name, and they decided instead to change the name. Ryder, of course, in the Generation 1 canon, he was a terrorist among the Stunticons. Ryder liked to cause destruction. He's a very destructive force of nature, mainly because he likes the sounds of the loud noises that comes from destruction. He can't stand quiet in any of its forms, so that makes him something of a liability to the Decepticons, as that means he can't be used on any missions that would require some stealth, since Ryder can't tolerate quiet. And in fact, Motormaster would often force the other Stunticons to stay quiet in order to drive Ryder into a frenzy. And again, a few of those traits would be carried over into Wildbreak, but also they would tone him down a bit, partially to make him more acceptable to a modern audience. But again, that's just one man's opinion. Wildbreak here is also, like Dragstrip, a rather simple character to handle toy-wise. For articulation, again, he has it just in his arms, but he can at least move his arms fully up into an I surrender pose. But you got to be careful with that, as it may pop the gimmick free for their merger. That's all you can do, articulation-wise. Transforming him is almost the same as with Dragstrip. First few steps are, you fold down the chest, fold his head in, close the chest up, and you bring the arms back down, secure them against the body. Then you come down here to his feet, and you got to fold the feet out. So that way he will be on all of his wheels. And then Wildbreak becomes a racing car. Whereas the Generation 1 version becomes a Ferrari. And how does this version of the character roll on his wheels? About as what you would expect with what Dragstrip did. Okay, something I want to point out to people deals with the instructions here. I mean, you get a nice set of instructions to show you how to merge them together. And, of course, on the opposite side, it's got the instructions for the two robots, but they've got the names for the robots reversed from the vehicles. Probably done by a G1 fan that saw the racing car and assumed that was Dragstrip. But nope, Dragstrip is the orange car. Alright, these guys have a combined mode. They're called crash combiners, because supposedly you can slam these guys together and then they'd form into the merged unit. Now, of course, I'm not going to slam them too hard, because, one, I don't trust my aim. Number two, I don't want to risk breaking it, because since this has been out of print for a long time, it's going to take me a while to replace it. But basically, when we merge them together, it'll cause the spoiler here to flip up, and it'll separate the upper arms. So, here we go. There we go. Pop that in, and wow, what a shot. That came out real good. And the instructions indicate that we fold up the front wheels here. Like so. And we should be able to separate the orange car a bit to form the legs. And we just come down here and we fold out the feet. And there we have the mighty Dragbreak. Even though he doesn't look a thing like his cartoon version. But you can still have fun trying to give him weird voices with it. In the cartoon, Dragbreak's combined form, the combined form of these guys, and Dragstrip himself, were voiced by veteran voice actor Maurice LaMarche, who's had a long and colorful career as a variety of different characters. Some of his more famous characters include being the voice of the Brain, as in Pinky and the Brain, and Dr. Egon Spengler in the Real Ghostbusters and Extreme Ghostbusters cartoons. Which is kind of fitting that I picked to review this. The day before I filmed this guy, I went and saw the new Ghostbusters film. Loved it. Wasn't outstanding, but wasn't bad either. At any rate, let's take a look at the combined figure, and, well, given the scale and size of it, it's certainly a rather imposing looking figure. Almost makes me wish I had taken the time to track down the other Crash Combiner. Supposedly these guys can swap their bodies around. That'd been a kind of nice thing to see. But at anywho, the articulation appears only limited to the arms. So we can bend his arm at the elbow 90 degrees. And it doesn't really move anywhere beyond that due to the springy mechanism that pops him open. Of course, we can adjust the legs a little bit. But if we leave him spread out a little bit like that, I think he stands a little better. But all in all, it's a rather interesting looking figure to say the least. So we get to my thoughts. What do I think of Dragbreak? I find this idea of merging the two of them together interesting. It was a thing that would be somewhat reintroduced during the Power of the Primes line when they brought in Battle Trap. As Battle Trap was a Generation 1 character, but he was done up as a Duocon, where the robot's mind would be split between two vehicles. And then the two vehicles would merge together, and the robot's personality would be whole again. However, in the Power of the Primes line, and for whatever reason I haven't reviewed that version of him yet, they instead did it up as two separate robots, and then they combined together as a combiner. Which in some ways would work out better for the two, given the fact that it would be harder to send half of a robot on a mission when the other half would be completely useless for that mission. So in ways that was an improvement. And in ways this guy kind of invokes that principle. For play feature wise, the feature probably could have been done a little better, but since this was done for younger kids, I'm willing to give it a slide just to be nice to it. All in all, I do like how it came out. The robot is, for lack of a better word, is imposing, to say the least. It is an imposing figure for its size. And it doesn't look too bad. I especially do like how the shoulders fan out like that. That is a nice look. And hopefully, characters like this will be further developed in other series for the Transformers. I actually wouldn't mind seeing this one come back, especially if they can find a way to make him come out looking more accurate to his cartoon appearance. I think a lot of his fans would really go nuts for something like that. At any rate, that's my review of the Robots in Disguise release of Dragbreak. I certainly hope everybody enjoyed it. Remember, if you love the content that we provide for you here on this channel, don't forget to like, share, comment, and subscribe, because we do appreciate all the feedback we can get around here. This is Sparkster1701, reminding you all that while these two characters are reckless speed demons on the road, don't forget that speed does kill, and you do have people here during this season that love you and want to see you at the holiday table, whether in person or via your computer. Be there for them. Be there for your family. And I'll catch you all later.